So freaking good tonight. So it's season 2, episode 13. It was titled The Tameness of a Wolf. And that wolf being Lucius Lyon, also known as Dwight Walker. Okay, so tonight's episode, it started off, of course, with the funeral of Camilla. So apparently she really did die, because a lot of people were questioning that, because we just saw her like take the rest of a pill bottle. We don't know if it was liquid or pills. In my mind, I thought she was going to throw it up when he left, but she actually did die. And of course, they found her wife dead as well, so they're just calling it a murder-suicide. And they're mourning the death of her at Empire, and Hakeem also goes further to name Rhonda as taking over like the fashion department at Empire. Okay, so then we go back to Hakeem's office. Lucius is sitting in the chair, and then so Hakeem and the brothers come inside, and Lucius is like, man, I cannot believe that you drove her to kill herself. You basically killed her. And then he said, what are you talking about? I don't have anything to do with that. And then, of course, he says, well, you're the one that sent the sex tape to her wife. And so maybe if you wouldn't have sent that, she wouldn't have got pissed off, and both of them, and then it turned into a murder-suicide. Lucius is cold-blooded because he knows that he was about to kill that woman, and he told her that she needs to just put her own misery, put herself, y'all know what I'm trying to say, okay? Put herself out of her own misery. Okay, so, nevertheless, they finally get past that. All three of the brothers, like, really hate Lucius at this point. They're not dealing with him. But Cookie is dealing with him, because in this moment, she feels like he needs her. They go driving around certain parts of the city that are familiar to him. He goes to a specific neighborhood. There's a lion there that's in front of the house. It's the only house on the block that's unchanged from when he was a child. So, of course, we're seeing flashbacks this entire episode on and off. And all of a sudden, we see Lucius as a kid, laying in front of this lion. And this is basically where Lucius Lyon was thought of, when Lucius Lyon was created. Because he was homeless for a while, sleeping in front of this lion. Now, what we find out later on when Lucius is recording a video in which, you know, we originally had the boom, 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 bang, 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 bang. And Frida Gatz had verses on the song with Lucius. It sounded really good. Well, since Cookie has convinced Lucius that he needs to tell his truth, his full truth, and that's the least he can do, especially when she went to jail for 17 years for a man that she didn't even know his real name. So he says, okay, this has to be a personal video. So basically, he's recreating his childhood and the images that pop into his mind, being his home. He's trying to find a woman that looks close enough like his mother. Cookie is working really hard for this. Meanwhile, Jamal and Hakeem are working on music of their own. Hakeem is producing Jamal. They're trying to get Frida Gatz involved. She did not want to betray Lucius because he's like a father to her. However, when Lucius tells her, you're not going to be in this video, we cut out all your songs, she gets mad, and of course she agrees to go and do a song with Jamal. But anyways, back to Lucius. Lucius, he is, you know, the set is all set up, the reporter is there, and they have the little boy that looks like the young version of Lucius, they have the mother, and he said, this isn't right. We should be outside. We should be outside. This setting is all wrong. No, what actually happened was, and then Cookie stops him from talking. She's like, stop. And then she tells the reporter, if you get that, I'm going to whoop your tail. Okay, whatever. So then all of a sudden, Cookie and Lucius, they go to have like their private time to each other to really talk about what happened so she can help the video come to life. So he basically explains to her like the whole incident when he was in the water and his mom was kind of like drowning him and she kept him under there for a long time, but it's because she felt like she was cleansing him. And by the time she realized what she was doing, she was horrified. And at that point, that's when she kept saying, have you found my bullets? Have you found my bullets? Remember, in the last season, Lucius, as a child, he went and hid the bullets like in the backyard or something in the ground. And I guess she must have found one out of nowhere. So he was already shooken up by that traumatic event that day, and then all of a sudden his mom finds a bullet and puts it right to her head in front of him and kills herself. So that was extremely traumatic for him, and the whole time he knew, okay, something is wrong with my mom. Like, as he said, they didn't have a name for it back then, but she was clearly bipolar. But he was just kind of trying to deal with it, and it was just him and his mom. I haven't heard any dealings of his father. Anywho, so then Lucius explains to Cookie that, as a kid, the next door neighbor took care of him for a little while. He heard social services was coming, so he left. He went and slept out on the streets and in abandoned buildings. And then one day, 16-year-old Frank Gathers came and found him, gave him his first bag of drugs to sell, and basically saved his life at that point. Now, that was a realization moment because, of course, Lucius had Frank Gathers killed. Of course, Frida Gatz doesn't know that, also known as Frida Gathers. He had her killed had Frank Gathers killed because Frank Gathers was going to kill Cookie. And everybody connected to her. So they made peace with that. We had to do what we had to do. Okay. Nevertheless, they finally go back in there, have everybody come on the set. She has to give the little boy a pep talk, basically saying, you will be a hero to so many other kids around the world. I really need you to do this part. It is just acting. Basically, when people see this video, it will bring mental illness to light, and especially family members dealing with close family members that are going through mental illness. So I thought that was great. So all of a sudden, then we see that she's trying to get like a edit of the video done by 5 o'clock. This was on the day of her birthday. Earlier in the episode, Cookie said that she wanted to have all of her family together for her birthday because it's been a long time. She was in jail for 17 years. The boys are basically like, no, I'm not going to come. So she said, I guess I'm going to have a quiet dinner with your dad. And you can tell that Cookie is connecting to Lucius again. And I think it's because she understands his madness, his craziness. Once you've had a childhood that traumatic, and to think that they were married all those years and they were crazy about each other, but she never knew like what happened to his mother or his real name or anything. She's basically like getting to know him all over again, and the vulnerable side of him, and she's understanding why he thinks and acts the way that he does, and he's always in survival mode, and why he acts the way he acts towards Andre. Anywho, so she goes to the house for dinner. All of a sudden, she starts hearing somebody playing a piano. She goes into the room. It's her sons. They show up because, of course, they love her more than they hate Lucius. And so she says, great, I have everybody together, and Rhonda was there as well. I'm going to play you guys, rough draft of Lucius's video. Okay, so all of a sudden, she starts playing the video. Graphic images throughout the video. He's really getting into it. The sons are really paying attention to it. It's showing flashes of his mom, which would be their grandmother, and showing images of the kid being like drowned in the bathtub, and then the mom you can tell like she has some type of mental illness, and then she has a gun, and that was automatically a trigger for Andre, because remember, he did the same thing in Lucius's studio at Empire, and Andre couldn't even stomach finishing this. He had to hurry up and go and turn it off. And he was like, I can't do this. And he said, why didn't you tell me? You've known all this time. You're telling me my grandmother was bipolar. You could have told me. You could have helped me. I literally did the exact same thing, and I put a gun up to my head. He's like, I didn't want to tell you. I just wanted to make you strong. I didn't want that to make you weak. And then he said, I can't believe you. And basically, he was painting Lucius out to be a horrible person. Now, from Andre's point of view, perhaps, if his father would have told him, Andre would have understood it a little bit more. Okay, nothing is wrong with me. It's not just this one thing that happened to me. This actually runs in the family, and it's genetic, and that is why I have it, and I need to get help for it and take it seriously because I don't want to end up in the same position as my grandmother. Just somebody to relate to. And then also that would help Andre understand why Lucius acts the way that he acts towards him. And so he says, just be honest with me, just be real. So Lucius goes just completely left, and he says, okay, I'll be honest with you. Yeah, you're crazy because my mom was crazy. I lived through hell all the time with her. She was always losing her mind. She was a nutcase, and so are you. And I was embarrassed of her, and like I didn't like being around her. And I feel the exact same way about you. And I am embarrassed and ashamed of you. And I am like, whoa, like, so that was like, I'm like, God, like, do you not think that's a trigger for him? Don't say that to him. So, but in Lucius's defense, he was speaking his truth. Andre wanted to know the truth. Now, I think that he shouldn't have said that to his son, because regardless, at the end of the day, that's your son. Of course, I naturally felt sorry for Andre, and he storms off, and his wife, she's just walking home. Her little low-key killer came and picked her up, Anika, and she's going to stay with Anika for a little while. And she's going to find those shoes at her house, by the way. But anyways, and so, like, I also felt for Lucius in that moment, simply because Lucius, he lived that, like, misery for years. That, like is extremely traumatizing, and it seems like all he had was his mother. And for one, to see somebody commit suicide but then have to deal with that mental illness every single day, and it's not like he had like counseling or anything to help him through this. He's just dealing with it as a child. That is a lot to take on, and I think that he thought that he kind of like got away from that life, since he hadn't lived that life in so long, and he kind of just took care of himself, from the time he was like a little boy on up. And so now to basically relive that with your son, you don't want to believe it. Oh my gosh. Because perhaps he thinks the gene runs in his family. Maybe he blames himself for it. I'm not sure. But with that being said, I kind of felt sorry for Lucius as well, because it's like that was a moment of clarity. That was the truth. But it's sad because that's your son. So you have to get past this thing that you had with your mom. You need to find and make peace with that situation before you can even make peace with your son. And I know I'm talking like these are real people, but seriously, this episode, like, really, really, like, it got to me. Like, emotionally, it was like, wow. I absolutely hate the way that Terrence Howard, aka Lucius, aka Dwight, whatever his name is, I hate the way that he raps, like, with a passion. But the song and the concept, really good, really good. I would be shocked if I saw an artist today do that, because generally they don't get like that transparent. Also, another side story, Hakeem is really like loving Laura, and Tiana's getting jealous. Why? They've been over for a while. I thought they were beyond all of that. But then what's his face? Hakeem goes a step further. He appreciates the family bond that she has with her family. He wants the same thing, especially after seeing what has happened with his family. And basically his dad and his brother said that they're dead to each other. So he wants something different out of life. So he gets on his knee and proposes to Laura, and he wants to have a family with her. And Tiana and Anika are going to be pissed. But with that being said, like, comment, and subscribe, and check